All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Checkered Chat podcast. We are your hosts, Daniel,
Caleb?
and this week F1 is down in Monaco. Snooze fest. That's what it was. It was a little bit of a snooze fest. It was kind of a stressful snooze fest at certain points, but
I mean, it's just what Monaco's been known for in the most recent years. Because I mean, it's a qualifying race. Like,
yeah,
where you start is probably where you're gonna finish, unless something crazy happens. And I mean, nothing particularly crazy happened. Besides, one lap one incident, and then
a lap 9 incident.
9 incident from Gasly. So not a whole lot of opportunity for anything. We should talk about quali a little bit because I mean, Lando Norris, he did set the Monaco lap time record, so
which is crazy.
good for him.
And it was kind of like a secretariat type scenario. Like, yeah, secretariat like made the lap record, whatever, but also the horse in second place broke the lap record. Leclerc also broke the record for his provisional pole.
I thought you were about to compare Lando Norris to Secretariat. I was going to be really disappointed.
No, so like Leclerc ended up taking provisional pole from Lando at the end there, but then Lando managed to get a third quali lap in and broke Leclerc's provisional pole and then his record as well, which is
and gave us some prime Leclerc cockpit radio.
Yes,
classic. It's always a joy to listen to that. Well, not a joy. It's always fun to listen to that because he gets very animated sometimes.
Yes. I guess that's probably the most impressive part of the whole weekend. Not even that like he broke the record. Like McLaren managed to get 3 runs in Q3. Everyone else got 2 runs in. They all did their first. They all pit, and then McLaren were the first ones out. They set their second times, and then which allowed them to start their. I think they went back to back push laps, so they were able to get.
So they took a little bit of extra fuel and
so
get the tires in the right window,
which is pretty impressive. Obviously it didn't work out for Oscar starting. He couldn't jump Leclerc starting P3. But like that, I think that was probably really great planning by McLaren's strategy team, at least. The only like other really thing that happened in qualifying that we could really talk about is the Mercedes disaster class. That kind of went down. Q1, Kimi puts it in the barrier. Immediately ruins his race for the next day. And then in Q2, going into, I want to say he was when he was passing Casino or somewhere in between 4 and 5. He hit a bump on the road that caused his power just to completely shut off. So reliability issue there. He couldn't finish Q2. So they were kind of screwed to begin with.
I mean. And then I guess that leads us into the race.
Yeah.
Just really heavy team game influence in the race this weekend, with the whole mandatory 2-stop ordeal and what that sort of trickled down into. I mean, but not only the that, but also towards the front as well. With Lando pitting, Leclerc didn't immediately follow him in, right? He was going to try to extend a little bit and just keep the track position and try and get a gap out front. So in Monaco, very much like you're gonna use one driver to help the other, and so that's what McLaren did. They pit Piastri, and they sort of they have to force Ferrari's hand to pit Leclerc so they can help take the pressure off of Lando. So, I mean, that's part of the weekend that's a bit more acceptable. Mm-hmm. But then you get further back towards the back of the points, and then, right on the cusp of points, you just have guys going slow,
Yeah.
just to create, you know, that artificial pit window that everybody was going, or well, not everybody, but that people were going for. Um, and that just, I mean, it created that should never happen.
Yeah,
Like
no.
going slower should never be a tactic that is successful.
Yeah, at least with McLaren, they weren't making Oscar drive slow because obviously they needed Oscar to keep up with Leclerc
Yeah,
to force him to cover off an undercut, which they probably would have undercut him, but they had a relatively slow
yeah.
first pit stop.
Ferrari had a really fast pit stop.
Ferrari had a really fast pit stop.
McLaren had
McLaren
a
gave
slow.
Oscar like a 3.5 second pit stop, which is
Yeah.
not what you need. And you know, the teams that were in the bottom half of the points. So like the first team that did that would be Racing Bulls.
Yeah,
They got Lawson to back up the pack a whole 20 something seconds, so Isaac could just go into the pit with no pressure whatsoever.
yeah. He went into the pits and then came out literally just like a second ahead of Lawson, and then he quite literally they made the gap again, and then Hadjar pitted again.
Yep.
And he went to the end of the race, and so I mean that helped him convert a really good result for him. But I mean it's not super fun to watch, is it? It's I mean, you know, you're trying to watch the fastest cars in the world, not have guys slow down and hold up, because you know Monaco's already a really difficult track to overtake on. And so when you exploit that and just
Make it a non.
you know, it's partially the driver's fault, but also, you know, the mandatory two stop was a pretty big fail.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the appeal of the FIA wanting to try it, you know, because everyone was complaining like, oh yeah, no, Monaco is just qualify, you show up, you pit once early in the race, and you just go to the end on hards. So like, I could see the appeal on them wanting to force a second pit stop. It just did not work.
Well, the thing is with the one stop versus the two stop, and when it's a one stop, it's hard to overtake still, but the pit stops become a lot more important.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that like you're trying to have a gap to where you can pit safely, but to where
You gotta be perfect.
yeah, you have to be perfect, and if you wanna keep your position or gain a position, you have to pit really well, and you have to have good out laps, good in laps, stuff like that. So, you know, while there may not be a whole lot of action on the track, there's still, you know, a degree of excitement in like, oh, they're coming into the pits now, and so like that's something to watch. And I mean, the two stop effectively, it didn't eliminate it, but it sparked the idea for, you know, the whole, you know, backing up, play the hold up game. And I mean, RB weren't the only ones guilty of this. I believe. I mean, we were just reading an article. Williams, they basically said, well, we wouldn't have done it if RB didn't do it, but RB did it, so we had to do it too.
Right.
So Williams took it a little step further. They had both drivers sort of
they took
back up the pack.
turns.
Yeah. So initially it was it was Alex? No, it was Carlos initially. Carlos initially was holding up some drivers behind him. Let Alex pit, and then they switched positions, and then they had Alex holding up drivers.
Yep.
And then
Which
so
allowed
Carlos
Carlos
could
to
pit
pit.
safely.
Yep.
And that's where the whole George Russell incident comes into play, and like, I mean,
I get the frustration. Like, it's 76 laps of you just staring at a Williams rear wing,
but
and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, do they have a Atlassian sponsor on their rear wing?
So I get the frustration. Deliberately corner cutting. I mean, like,
he brake checked him. He's going slow, man.
True.
It's dangerous.
Corner cutting is not the answer. Despite that, you know, you don't want to break the rules. You
Well,
know, Kimmy ended up corner cutting, but his was on accident. He gave the position back.
Yeah,
Um,
but like so George's was funny in the moment because it was like it was very blatant. Like he didn't put very much effort into
No.
trying to follow, but a big part of me wanted that to work out for him
Yeah.
because that race was so
Yeah, and
underwhelming.
normally that would be what, a 3 to 5 second penalty for corner cutting.
Not when it's that blatant.
Well,
Like when
a
you
penalty
have
for back for like when you get a black and white flag for
well because
going over.
it was leaving the track and gaining an advantage,
Right.
and so I think normally that'd be like a 10-second, but
Even then, a 10-second would be a lot better than a
than
drive-through penalty.
yeah, because the drive-through was effectively like 20 seconds on
Yeah.
his time, and he
was-
couldn't pit or anything. So, yeah, ultimately he didn't gain anything from it because he still had to pit twice after his drive-through. But I mean, like I said, part of me just wanted that to shake out.
Yeah.
Because it really wasn't all that fun to watch
No,
up until that point.
I mean, it was very interesting the first 10 laps or so. You know, you had your Antonelli Bortoletto incident in lap 1 going into Portier right before the tunnel. You know, Gabriel took that position at the hairpin, just like on pace. Like he just straight up, like he kind of sunned Kimmy. Like he had a great like outside line.
Yeah, what it was, Kimmy got kind of caught up.
Yeah.
In the corner, and
he took advantage.
Yeah, Bortoletto was more unimpeded on the outside, and he was able to get by.
You know, if Kimmy wanted that spot back, he had to act immediately. And Portier is a good overtaking spot if you're close enough. It's just
everybody, especially because everybody's going so slow,
right.
And they're also tightly bunched up.
You know, I just think being a lap 1 incident, I don't think Gabriel was expecting Kimmy to send it because he probably wasn't as close as one would have liked to be able to pull that lunge off more effectively. So, you know, he had space, but Gabriel didn't have enough space. But it's Kimmy didn't like force him off. It's just I don't think Gabriel expected it, and it just caused him to.
Well, I think part of the issue is in that corner. There's like part of the wall, like so there's Portier, and then there's when you're turning in, there's part of the wall that like sort of juts out already, and so like you could see Bortoletto like try to jerk away so he could try and stay out of contact, but then he just
it was just too late.
Yeah, that little sort of jut in the wall was there, and he had nowhere else to go. So I mean, unfortunate for him, but he was able to continue at least.
Being able to put the car in reverse and get to the pit, replace that front wing. You know, it saved his race. At least it saved his race from not being a DNF. You know, obviously he still didn't score any points.
Yeah, no.
You know, and then Gasly crashing into the back of Sonoda in lap 9, and then driving the car like
half a lap,
8 corners all the way to the pit.
Yeah.
You know,
you think he'll get some sort of penalty for the next race?
If he didn't get it already, he's not going to get one. Like you're supposed to kind of like you're supposed to if you're too far from the pit, you're supposed to park it somewhere.
Yeah.
But just the way his crash in it, he wasn't leaving a whole bunch of debris everywhere. There was a little bit of debris where it happened, but since the cars were on the complete opposite side of the circuit, like the marshals were able just to hop on with the yellow flag. Mm-hmm. So I if he would have like sent carbon fiber and like oil everywhere, yeah, he would have got a penalty because he would have like messed the track up.
Yeah,
and they would have had to red flag it at that point.
Their issue with that is just like when you have to drive at that distance, when part of the car is mangled like that, you don't know exactly when and where it's gonna like if it is gonna like just spray debris somewhere.
It would have made complete more sense just to drive it straight to the runoff in front of like coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Like there's runoff right there if you lock up and you can't.
Yeah, just go into the
He could have just drove straight, parked it. He might have been going in a little quick. Maybe that's why he didn't do it. He probably thought he had too much speed. He probably would have hit something in that runoff. But he could have at least turned left to slow down a little bit and then tried to just maneuver it into the, if he couldn't get it into the runoff as close as he could, so then they could keep it under yellow and drag it, or deploy another VSC and drag it into that, and that would have been a lot safer, at least for well, not safer, but less of a chance of having a red flag or full safety car, in my opinion, at least. And then after that, it was just DRS trains and pit strategies, and for almost the whole race up until the pack leaders well, not the pack leaders, after the race leaders made their second stops. Lando pit, Leclerc pit, Oscar pit. At that point, Max was in first, still in net fourth, but he was in first, and him and Red Bull just decided to stay out.
Yeah, they were gambling for a safety car or a red flag or something.
Which I think is another kind of fail for the mandatory two stop, because if he would have won off of that, I feel like that's screwing over Lando, Charles. With no incidents up front, I don't think Oscar would have been able to win. But Lando and Charles were the two people who were probably going to win that race on pace.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been furious if I had to if the rule was that you couldn't do a free pit stop in the red flag, that Max would have pit at the same time. But they're trying to get that free pit under red flag. Obviously, it didn't happen. But I guess that's something that they need to consider changing for next year if they keep the mandatory two stop. Maybe make it to where you can't do a free pit under red for Monaco.
Yeah, I'm sure the more ideal situation would have been a safety car for them.
Yeah.
But back on the two stop, mandatory two stop, it really didn't do anything to reinvigorate the race or anything. If anything, it just backfired really. In the top 10, only one real position change, and that was between Lewis and Hadjar, and then Alonso DNF basically just gave everybody else a position behind. Literally just nothing whatsoever happening in the top 10, and just
your P 7 through 10 were a little jumbled up because of Alonso's DNF.
Yeah, but they straightened back out.
Yeah,
because literally from qualifying to the race, Lando same spot, Charles same spot, Oscar same spot, Max same spot. If you take out Fernando after that, you just had, like I said, Isaac and Lewis switch spots, and then it was Lawson same spot, Albon same spot, Sainz same spot. And then after that, like towards the bottom, it gets more mixed up just because they were trying.
They had a couple lap one
different pit strategies and other mishaps, and so the races at the back were a bit more varied. But that's not really important. They're not racing for points at that point, especially when you have 2-3 drivers backing up the pack. So overall, it's pretty disappointing weekend.
Yeah, the Indy 500 was a bit of a disappointment as well. It wasn't a snooze fest like Monaco was. It was just kind of a lot of just kind of disappointing things went down. I want to say pretty close to 1/3 of the field crashed, or just had something happen to end their race. Alex Palou won.
I'm about to say, I think the thing you were most displeased with was Alex Palou winning again, because Alex Palou domination is ruining IndyCar, according to Daniel.
It's rough. It's not even. It's like Max winning year after year, but at least like with Pelot, like they're all on equal cars. So like he's actually just
Better.
better than everybody. uh, but with the IndyCar Championship, Pelot, that's his first oval win, and that's kind of what kept the championship interesting the past few years. He couldn't get it done on the oval, so he wasn't getting a lot of points on the later half of the year where all the ovals are in. And Scott Dixon ended up winning one championship because of that. He was able to win multiple ovals in 22, I think, or 23. One of the 2 years, whichever year Pelot didn't win. Uh, you know, Dixon was able to capitalize on Pelot's lack of oval experience. Um,
But yeah.
couple of minutes ago, IndyCar announced that 3 cars were given penalties, moved to the back of the grid. So 2 Andretti's, including Marcus Ericsson's Andretti, got the penalty. So Malukas moved up to P2, Pata moved up to P3 instead of P3 and P4, which is pretty interesting. And IndyCar's not afraid to give out penalties a couple days later. I think they're still going to, there is a possibility of another, might affect Malukas or Pato or Pelot or anybody else. We'll just have to see. I wouldn't be surprised if another one gets handed out
Well,
in a day or so.
Even with the penalties, Pato's P2 in the IndyCar Championship,
Yep.
but he's still behind by a considerable gap.
115, and you get 50 points for winning in IndyCar.
It's like that meme. Chris Paul hits 3 to cut the deficit
to cut
down
the deficit down
to like 40.
Yeah. So I mean, like you get 50 points for a win. So later half of the season, he could do what Dixon did and kind of capitalize on ovals because Pelot still isn't as experienced as a lot of these guys are on ovals. So we'll have to see. There's a couple more street and road circuits as well. So Pelot will definitely still be in the mix. It's not as over as I probably would have said it was. We'll have to see though.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of other disappointing motorsport events, this past weekend was the first weekend of the motocross season for the AMA, the American Motocross Championship. I mean, the most notable things: Hayden Deegan going 1-1 in the 250 class, and it wasn't particularly close either. He just outright kind of dominated the 250 class, and then in the 450 class was slated to be a bit more interesting with the return of Jet Lawrence and Hunter Lawrence and Eli Tomac and Jason Anderson, all those guys coming back from their separate incidents and whatever. All for Jet Lawrence to take the win, go 1-1 also at Fox Raceway. With some slight challenge in the second race from Eli Tomac, but ultimately Jet Lawrence came away with it, which is honestly really crazy to think about. I mean, this is a guy who was he's 3 months out from his ACL injury and surgery. He tore his ACL and messed up his knee all sorts of ways just 3 months ago, and he's now back at the front. Just where we expect him to be. The other sort of big headline of the weekend was Chase Sexton. Obviously, he's the defending motocross champion from last season. Goes down in the first race, and it wasn't a particularly gruesome crash. It was sort of just like he just not tipped the bike over, but he kind of, I believe what happened was in the broadcast they showed it back. He hit his rear brake on accident, and the bike went forward and he fell over, and wasn't like the hardest crash ever, but he ended up not coming back for the second race, and that left a lot of people sort of wondering what maybe happened. But to be honest, Chase's race was kind of messed up from the start because I think on lap 1, he threw his goggles away off of his. He took his goggles off and threw them away for some reason. Um, Still, people speculate he got hit by a pebble and it cracked or whatever. But still, he was already having a rough race from the jump, and so it'll be interesting to see what he has to say and what happens at the next race, whether or not. I mean, Chase Sexton, he's kind of known as being a really big head case in the motocross and supercross world. He makes some pretty dumb mistakes, and um, it cost him a supercross title this year, and hopefully he gets that rectified so we can see some more competitive racing. Because I hate to see it just devolve into sort of one guy winning everything,
Yep.
and then maybe have Eli and Jet is the clear favorite. Jet Lawrence is the clear favorite, and I don't want it to be occasionally Eli Tomac challenges or occasionally somebody else challenges, but it's sort of looking that way because I mean you don't come back from an ACL tear in 3 months and win
and anything really.
Yeah, and have that be normal.
Yep.
So Jet is definitely a freak of nature, and we want to see more competition. So I think that about wraps up what we have for this week.
Yep, we just gotta hope that Spain does something. I really would like to have a really entertaining race next week in Spain. Last season Spain was the last race Max won for months. There was a 10 or 11 round gap between Spain and Brazil where he didn't win a race. So, obviously he's got a pretty solid chance to win on Sunday. But we'll, just kind of hope it was a lot better than this week. It's very difficult, I think, to be worse than Monaco.
I think it can only go up from here.
I would like it to go really up.
It's kind of sad to say that Monaco is the rock bottom of the F1 calendar, but it kind of is now. That's just kind of how it's shaped up.
But follow us on our socials. We're gonna try to maybe start live tweeting on the.
This is like the third or fourth episode.
Yeah, right? I tweeted at the end of the race. But we want to talk to anyone who wants to interact with us. So follow us on our Twitter and our Instagram, and we will see y'all next week after Spain. So.